that the current status quo with the Venezuelan regime is intolerable for the United States. The status quo, that they operate and cooperate with terrorist organizations against the national interest of the United States. Not just cooperate, but partner with and participate in activities that threaten the national interest of the United States. So yes, our goal is to change that dynamic.
Yes, Secretary of State Marco Rubio making the case for an aggressive Venezuelan policy, vowing to do whatever it takes to defend itself from what they call Venezuelans' terrorist drug gangs, let alone China's influence, Russia's influence, and Iran's influence. Our next guest knows all about fighting the war on terror. Retired Navy SEAL Mike Sorelli joins us now. Mike, it looks like they're putting special operations, aircraft, troops, and equipment in the Caribbean area this week. Your thoughts about what you think the president's willing or ready to do?
I think, Brian, ultimately, this is a beautiful psychological chess move and one that Maduro prays that really never becomes reality. But when you stage special operations forces as well as the 75th Ranger Regiment, you're screaming that violent options are on the table. And from personal experience, I'm going to tell you that the 75th Ranger Regiment has a storied tradition of seizing key terrain and killing the enemy at volume. But ultimately, this is part of Trump's big squeeze. Choke his money source, by seizing the tankers, stage the muscle, which he's put the troops and the assets in the region, close their airspace. He's isolating Maduro. But I haven't seen you in a while, and I think ultimately here's the big picture that the Democratic Party doesn't understand, and they're officially the party that has a problem to every solution, is that Trump is resetting Western doctrine. It's been long overdue. No more despots, no more narco-terrorism, and no more allowing Beijing and Moscow to freelance on our back door. This is about our sovereignty and protecting the American people.
And if you look at the governments, they've had free and fair elections in Bolivia. They won Democratic conservative. They just had one in Chile, Democratic conservative. We asserted ourselves immediately in Panama. We're helping make sure that Argentina's government stands tall and push back against China. So we're seeing this in different waves. But the problem is, always has been Venezuela. How does that link to Cuba? Evidently, Cuba's already feeling it because they're not getting the oil that they need.
Yes, and Cuba has had special police services within Venezuela. So again, it's much like Beijing and Moscow are pulling back, understanding not to get involved in the Western Hemisphere. The economic strain that this puts on Cuba, it may almost be, and I hate to bring up the term, which was a failed term, the domino effect. If you take down Maduro, how does this impact Cuba and potentially regime change there?
If we don't stand up against communist aggression, we don't win the Cold War. So we can let the think tanks debate that. But just looking at this, what are our options? Is there another way to squeeze without going in?
Again, Maduro's been in power for 12 years. So I think the American people, we are an impatient people. You've got to give Trump time here. He's put all the multi-pronged attacks or lines of effort in place, from diplomatic to information. They're broadcasting to the Venezuelan people that their regime is the problem, the sanctions, and then the military force. So if we allow this to take a little time, ultimately, I think the goal here is to win the war, the regime change, without firing a shot. And Trump is beautifully playing this right now.
All right. Hunter Biden sat down for 5.5 hours on the Sean Ryan podcast to a guy I know you know well. Here's what he said about his dad's decision to leave Afghanistan.
I think one of the failures was the way in which they executed the withdrawal from Afghanistan. I think it was an obvious failure. I think 13 Marines are dead. I think that there was a better way to do it. And I think that, I can blame it on his generals. I can blame it on the people, the way in which we did it. But my dad always knew this also, is that the buck stops with him.
Not only does the buck stops with him, it was his idea. The generals push back. Mike, what are your thoughts about the son of the president speaking out?
I thought this was comedic. First off, 5.5 hours, that's probably the longest shift that Hunter's worked in his life. I think we all thought the best part of Joe Biden leaving office is we never have to hear about Hunter again. But Hunter, in this new brand, is the accountability guy. As we say, that shoe don't fit. I mean, his career has been nothing but a masterclass in failing upward, powered by his dad's last name and not a track record of his own. Here's ultimately what I think Hunter Biden missed, is the Afghan withdrawal isn't a talking point. It was a national referendum on the Biden era incompetence. it was a stain on the memories of those who served and died over there. And the 13 Americans at Abbey Gate, that was a gut punch. Every American felt it. The world watched it. And Brian, you know this, our adversaries ultimately took advantage of it with Ukraine and Israel.
No question. And then it was up to guys like you to get all of our people and our allies out of it. They just left it, and it was sickening. Thanks so much, Mike. Appreciate it. Thanks for all you do for the country. Always appreciate your analysis.
Merry Christmas.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.